We're going to look at civic engagement and democracy in action through the lens of the county council's attempt to gerrymander the councilmanic districts and how we got to a pro-community county council. I'm going to define some terms, talk briefly about the national election, really focus on the story around what happened in our county and what us citizens, civic organizations, I should say we, citizens, civic organizations, HOAs, nonprofits, issues organizations did from around the country, banding together. We educated, we engaged, we collaborated, we organized, and we voted. And now we have a huge opportunity with the most pro-community county council we've had in decades, if not our lifetimes. It's really a historic opportunity for our county because we knew we could do better. So what is this thing called gerrymandering? It's basically a tool to keep and get power. The original word comes from the mashup of Jerry and salamander, which basically goes way back to 1812, where this political cartoon was done after the Massachusetts legislature designed a councilmanic district in the Boston area that looked like this monster, salamander, and they put that together with Governor Elbridge Gerry's name, who signed the bill. Actually, he's called Gary, but it went from a hard G to soft G, and here we have our gerrymander. Now, gerrymandering or messing around with districts for political gain goes way back to the 1500s, and you see it around the world. Here's some examples of what happened nationally recently. Basically, state legislatures and or state redistricting commissions draw congressional maps to elect our U.S. Congress. And our county council does this for the councilmanic districts for the county council. This is based on U.S. Census data that is done every 10 years. We just went through that in 2020. And the electoral districts are redrawn to account for the relative population changes among the districts to keep them constant. Now, these are cool graphics from the Washington Post. You can play this game of mini golf. I'll put these links in the chat later. I'm going to focus on one crazy design. It's called cracking. This is a tactic to dilute a group's voting power. And they took Cincinnati and divided it up into 3 districts in Ohio's first. Their Supreme Court threw it out, but some of these others went through. What happened in our county? Well, our redistricting commission, whose maps you see on the right side, on the left side of Eric Olson and Crystal's before and after comparison,
that's for me to see.
Did compact districts and met all the guidelines, best practices that you do in drawing new districts according to population changes. And after months of input and changes, it was well publicly vetted. But Davis, council member from District 6, came out with a proposal. It was a backroom deal that was rammed through against county council members who were opposed to a non-public vetting of this redistricting process. And they did it in a political way to reduce competition and voter choice. 6 district members voted for this, and then we held one, by law held one public hearing. Well, this is what happened. Candidates were moved to other districts. These were candidates that had been running already. Eric Olson had been running for 5 months in College Park in District 3, and Crystal Laureata in District 7, who had lost her primary in 2018 by only 31 votes, was already running for 2022. The Davis-Franklin proposals moved Eric into District 1. They drew a line around his house. You can see it on the right. And with Crystal's, it was a little easier. Wasn't as obvious as Eric Olson's, the commander of Eric Olson, really blatant. And Crystal's, they moved her as well. And in the process, they split up communities. And they weren't allowed to run. And it got tied up in courts. Meanwhile, their competitors could run because you have to live in the district in which you're running prior to the election by a year before. So the communities were also split. This is another before and after. This was a presentation by demographer D.W. Rollins. And on the left, you see the Redistricting Commission's plan. It kept Vansville, a historic Black community, together. But in the Davis-Franklin plan, it split it between two different districts. Well, you have to kind of scratch your head and ask why. Well, there's USDA land right there. But they needed to move some population in there because, of course, this is about population, not a land grab. So they split Vansville. There's a lot of money if you build to higher density, and that's what some people with big money wanted to do. So who gets to make these decisions? Traditionally, other council members defer to the district's council member when voting on issues in that district. Does your council member listen here and respond to your community? Our community asks to keep natural systems, trees that clean our air and soils that filter our water. And this last line should read, we don't need another convenience store and gas station. This is what happened in my backyard in Adelphi. Very costly. So what did us citizens do? We'd really had enough. County residents woke up one morning to find they'd been moved to another voting district. So we banded together, as I said, educated each other, and rallied people in the press. Tracee Wilkins of NBC4 tells the story very well, and I'm going to let her do it for us. She can do it a whole lot better than I can.
In just a few days, the Prince George's County Council will vote on a new county district line map. The map created by one council member drastically changes who residents can vote for and who represents them. Today, community leaders from across the county gathered in protest, calling that map gerrymandering. Prince George's County Bureau Chief Tracee Wilkins explains why so many people are upset about it.
It makes a mockery of the redistricting process. It makes a mockery of democracy. It makes a mockery of the Prince George's County community.
From Accokeek to West Laurel and communities in between, Prince George's County community leaders came together to send a message to the county council.
You would think that if the council people have any ethics at all, they would be totally embarrassed to have it known what they're pushing for.
Districting Commission made minor changes to the council district lines to reflect census data. Then, in a surprise move to some council members, Councilman Derek Davis introduced a drastically different map. Supporters say it corrects districting mistakes made in the past. Those in opposition call it backroom politics that purposely protects incumbents from being challenged by strong candidates.
Certain people feel they can't get elected unless things are changed.
The new map also divides some communities into two districts, separating residents from commercial areas near their homes.
When you separate us, you separate our voices, you separate our power, you disenfranchise.
We citizens deserve a process that is absent of perceived corruption.
Councilmember Davis, who drew the new map, had this to say about what he created.
No one's entitled to a seat. You have to run for a seat in any district, and the districts are drawn by the county council through the process that's articulated in the charter.
Today's rally was held outside of Cameron Grove, a retirement community still at odds with Davis after they accused him of secretly modifying what can be developed on land near their homes. Their accusations drove him to tears in a community meeting.
When publicly questioned about his responsibility to us, his constituents, Davis began crying like a kid with his hand caught in the cookie jar.
Today, they were among the leaders calling for the original map to be reinstated and for change to come to the county council.
And if this map does go through next year in June, what are we going to do? We're going to vote them out.
There's an opportunity for the public to speak out on this new map before the council votes on Tuesday, but folks have to register before they're allowed to speak. I'm Tracee Wilkins, News 4.
Redistricting commissions are created to keep politicians from drawing lines that personally benefit them, but the Prince George's County Council has the power to change what its commission recommends.
And that's true across the country. It depends on how it's set up in the states. 150 people registered, showed up, and testified publicly for that one public hearing, and we were ignored. So that didn't work. We couldn't change even one vote. So at great expense of citizens and taxpayers, we took it to court, and we had to win twice, but we got the redistricting commission's map. But let Tracee Wilkins tell you the rest of the story.
Some Prince George's County residents are breathing a sigh of relief tonight after the Maryland Court of Appeals threw out a redistricting map drawn by the county council.
The controversial map lines the lines were drawn through some long-standing and historic communities. Prince George's County Bureau Chief Tracee Wilkins spoke with one resident who joined the lawsuit to stop it.
J.D. Perkins raised his family here in the Vansville portion of Beltsville. This historically majority black community is unincorporated. People who live here depend on civic associations to protect community interests.
When you split an area, especially like Vansville, you're diluting our power and our chances of being successful.
Perkins was among the county residents who sued the county council and won after it passed a redistricting map radically changing council lines, dividing Vansville and another historic black community into two council districts.
When the council elects to try to split a historically African American area like Vansville or cut in half the historic Old Town area.
That was a point argued before Maryland's highest court after the council appealed and lost again in a decision handed down yesterday.
I was hoping the judges would see it the same way, and they did.
Some council candidates were also drawn out of districts they were actively campaigning in, like Eric Olson. A peninsula around his home of more than 20 years put him in another district. He supported the lawsuit.
The gerrymandering was wrong, and the court system saw that. Both the circuit court and the Court of Appeals saw that.
Some critics say the candidates who were being blocked could change the power dynamic of the council if they win.
I don't play political games. I always am trying to work on behalf of the community and the residents to do what's right.
After months of residents protesting and pleading with the council, the courts ruled that the council did not follow proper procedure. Their map was thrown out. The original map created by the Redistricting Commission and supported by residents will be used for years to come.
If I have to follow the rules, the county council should have to follow the rules.
The Prince George's County redistricting map issue is settled, but the state and the U.S. congressional map are both still in litigation. Because of this, the filing date has been pushed back for the primary. The actual primary may be pushed back as well, but for now, it's still in June. In Beltsville, I'm Tracee Wilkins, News 4.
Some council members who supported the lawsuit joined residents for a victory celebration last night. County Executive Angela Alsobrooks released a statement today saying now that this is resolved, the county's Board of Elections can move forward with redrawing county district lines.
You did it. We all did it. And now we move forward. We have this great opportunity. Because in that primary election, which was moved to July, we voted for our candidates and our representatives. In the primary, that's when it happens, because at the county level, we're really kind of a one-party system. I mean, you have to run for in the general, but whoever wins the primary on the county council, they're basically our elected representatives. There's not much competition in the general. So this is who we have. And this is, as I said before, a historic opportunity because we have a group of people, hopefully the majority, who are the most pro-community county council we've ever had. So I hope you'll celebrate There's an exchange of the gavel Tuesday, December 6th at 11 a.m. down at the Wayne Curry Building in Largo. Witness the incoming county council and the leadership change that you helped create. Here you see who your representative is in the district, if you don't know who they are. And you'll notice that in addition to 9 representatives, there are 2 at large, which we also vote for, and they represent the whole county. But I have to leave you with this question: who do they represent? And that's a question we have for each council member. Keep track of their voting, what kind of proposals they put on the table, and follow the money. It's still up to us. Moving forward, we have a lot to do, all hands on deck countywide, to move our whole county forward. We need to continue to make it better. We need to know that we need 8 council members' votes to override any legislative veto by the county executive, and they can override any veto, any legislation that a majority passes. A majority is 6. So we really need 8 votes should this happen. And although we choose hire and rehire or not council members, we may or may not renew their contracts in 4 years. We're going to watch, monitor results, and hold them accountable. We're going to show up, support or oppose their legislation and budgets, raise our voices and visibility, stay the course for a just, sustainable county. Because there is strength in numbers of organized voices and votes. This is what you do. This is what we do all around the county as citizens and organizations who care about our democracy. Your voice and your vote have power, and this is amplified by how well we're informed and engaged, organized, and rallying together. You know these are the results of democracy in action. You do this all the time, and I thank you. Happy to take any questions, comments, or thoughts.